You know what? I had a game that I wanted to talk about that I started on Wii U, but I honestly don't. I have enough to say about it, but when you were talking about this game on Steam, it made me think of something I finished recently, which was Limbo. And Limbo's like kind of that 2D scary platformer, and I think this was like really big. It was released in 2007 because it came out like on Xbox 360. So I remember like my friend Gavin, when I used to live in Hawaii, and he would like have his 360 up, and he only played Battlefield, and he would play Limbo sometimes, and he would just be like, "This is the coolest game ever. It has like these elements of horror. It almost looks like I don't know, not like Pixar-esque, but something like you might see in like, you know, one of those kind of like pixelated movies or whatever."
Yeah.
Limbo is like a 2D platformer where you have to trigger certain events to happen so that you can keep progressing. Otherwise, your guy gets viciously murdered. And it's really kind of counter to like this kind of cute art style. And like Spencer's game, this is all black and white. And what you do is, I guess you're basically going through like the stages of limbo or hell, and you're trying to find your way to the light. You're like just this young boy. And it's I think in the beginning, the suspense is really there. Like you really feel that sense of horror. There's like, I remember this scene with like this huge spider, and it's like it's not even moving, but as you approach it, the legs start moving. And you know, I remember early on too, it's like you can walk into traps, and then what happens is the game kind of transitions to a more industrial feel. I think where it kind of fails and loses the horror sense is that as you progress through the game, like you can die a lot, but you're so desensitized to it that it doesn't make me have any kind of jump scares like in the second half of the game, especially. You know, there are some creepy elements, but you can tell this is like one of those first early examples of like a modern indie game that was successful at what it was doing. I just don't know how well it maintains its sense of horror. I don't know why I felt like particularly compelled to talk about this one today. I think just maybe because like it's still fresh on my mind, and you know, I remember having the headphones on, and I could really feel the tension as I was you know, descending into the pits of hell.
How low can you go?
That's Limbo, you know, to get the stage.
I adore that game. I love Limbo.
Yeah, well, you know,
It's like I never really saw it as a horror game. I guess I saw it as more like if I'm thinking horror, I'm almost thinking more like a Tim Burton horror, where it's like it uses horror elements to tell a non-horror story, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. It's a good comparison actually, because it's very like aesthetic horror in a way.
Yeah, and yeah, I was gonna say horrible. I mean, I guess maybe to some people there are, but there are horror like situations, like the spider when it like literally jabs through your head, like it just goes like that and just lifts you up and I think tosses you. It's been a while, but I think that was one of them. I mean they're there, but yeah, and I love the weird like industrial twist because I almost picture his death or his life had something to do with that, and they were trying to tell like something that kid went through or something.
There's like a very meaningful close to the game where I think it's like you end up in like the real world or something, and that's where the credits roll. It's like when you finally, you know, emerge. But I think like at one point like you're chasing like this girl or something, and I think that's also kind of, this doesn't always work for every game, but it works for some games where it's kind of like you get to kind of create the narrative of the main character in your own head. And yeah. I think like you're insinuating here, like with that boy, there's so much he goes through. It's like, what did he do? How did he end up here? Who are these people? How did these people get down here? It's like a story that's not told, that's told.
Yeah.
You know, in a way, even if I admit it, I never played Limbo, but again, I saw plenty of videos on it. It almost feels like a sort of nightmare kind of.
Yeah.
Like this boy's nightmares or kind of like that. And escape from those. So that's what really reminds me, even though I've never played it.
One of my biggest frustrations is that it becomes more of a platforming challenge towards the second half, and like it really slows down the pace at which you experience the story. Do you feel that way, Spencer? Alex, have you played this?
I have not, but I watched my mom play it. Oddly enough,
Gets more challenging. I don't know if I didn't like that. Like it becomes, to me, it became more of a platformer puzzle game, which I was cool with it. And a lot of what I liked was that a lot of the solutions were devious at times. So I kind of like that. It did slow down. I think it just had an escalating difficulty, which I thought was fun. It was what, like 3-4 hours?
Yeah, it's a short game. The puzzles are intuitive too. I only needed to look at a guide for like 1 or 2 portions of it. But like really figuring out, like it's in that nice zone where it's not so easy that everything's just like lined up for you, but it's not like so outrageously out there that it's like, what do I do?
Yeah, and it uses gravity. Like it's got like an actual physics-based system to it, which is nice.
There's a really cool moment in the industrial sections where it like toys with the gravity and like how you're jumping and running. I don't know if you remember that part, but I won't talk about it.
It's vague, but I remember all like little things about that.
Things start rotating and it's crazy.
Like when I think of like really good indie games, that's probably at the top of my list of games that like the budget worked to make a really good project, and that's what it is. And I like that a lot. I think they did everything they could with that small concept.
I don't know. Ever since Braid, I've played so many of those like indie puzzle platformers. You know, it's just like now, whenever I see one, I'm like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
It's Limbo. I've never played Limbo, like the actual physical game. Like
Can you get on low?
Not even when you were a kid? Like I played it when I was a little kid.
Maybe. I don't remember. It's been a long time.
And I played it as a little kid, and I was like, oh man, I better get good at this, because I bet everyone's going to play this when I get older. Like all the adults seem to be really into it.
Very important thing in adult life.
Kids these days don't even know what the Macarena is.
What?
Just saying.
Put that on your TikToks.
The Macarena. That's Limbo in a nutshell.